Hey friends, it is Jenny here. All right, we're going to talk about a topic today that I hear tons and tons of questions and concerns. It is probably the number one gardening problem that our customers talk to us about: deer. Right? So if you have high deer pressure in your garden, you know how incredibly frustrating it is to spend your hard-earned money, your time, your labor to create a gorgeous garden, and all that happens is that the deer come and in one night can absolutely wipe out your garden. So our friends at Proven Winners and Spring Meadow, the home of the Proven Winners Color Choice Shrubs, they have come out with a line that is called the Deer Proof line. Now, while I would say that if a deer is hungry, it will eat anything, but these plants that are put into the Deer Proof line from Proven Winners are the plants, the shrubs, that are going to be least likely affected by deer. So if you have high deer pressure in your garden, or maybe you just want to ensure that if any deer come to your garden that they do not partake in a buffet of your shrubs, then these are going to be great options for you in your garden. So what we're going to do is we're just kind of going to go through. A lot of times you're going to see them by certain kinds of species of plants, right? And then within that, we have got all sorts of different options for you based on your color preference and your size preference. So without further ado, we're just going to jump right on in and talk about the shrubs that are going to be least likely to be affected by the deer in your garden. Now, if you have spent any time with me in the garden, you know that I am a huge fan of Abelias. Abelias are a great, more petite, nice rounded shrub that historically grow really well here in the South. They're going to be hardy in zones at 6 to 9. They are a beautiful evergreen that come in a range of colors. Abelias will be, like I said, they are evergreen. They typically have a nice mounded habit to them, and they will come in colors, whether you like Mucho Gusto, which is one of my personal favorites. We've talked about how well it is doing in the garden here. It's one of those classic colors, very elegant, mostly green with some creamy edging on it. And then all your Abelias will do flowers this time of year, late summer, that your pollinators go absolutely crazy over. So you have Mucho Gusto, is like I said, that nice lovely green. You have Brillantina, which is really nice, a bright color. It will start with orange new growth that matures to green and yellow. Really nice, well behaved. You will rarely get those shoots that randomly come out of Abelias. If you've ever grown an Abelia, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So that is a beautiful one, as is, you have Poco Loco, right? So Poco Loco is going to be a very fast growing dwarf variety that changes foliage color throughout your season. The new growth on your Poco Loco will start out as yellow, and then it kind of goes on to a nice little juicy orange color, and then as it matures, it will go from a green, and then you have some pink hues in there. So if you're looking for kind of just a range of colors from one single plant throughout the season, then Poco Loco is going to be the one for you. It's only going to be 2 to 3 feet tall and wide. All Abelias, regardless of what they are, do bloom on new growth. So what I encourage our customers, our viewers to do is just go ahead when you're coming out of winter and going into spring, is give them a nice haircut. Give them a trim. You can, what I call, give them a bowl cut. Just give them a nice tight overall trim, and then that way, as they are going from winter into spring, they will put on all that beautiful new growth and have a nice, even stronger, tidier habit on them. And then finally, Tres Amigos. I think the name kind of gives it away. Again, you're going to have a beautiful kaleidoscope of colors here on Tres Amigos. You are going to have shades of green, cream, and pink with a little bit of yellow dashed in there in the spring. Of course, you have those beautiful white flowers that are going to give you great pollinator food for your little friends in the garden. And this too is going to be, it's going to be 2 to 3 tall, but 3 to 5 wide. So if you are looking to create some nice ground cover to, you know, fill in a high area of real estate in your garden, then Tres Amigos is going to be one for you. So Abelias, if you are in zones 6 to 9 and you are looking for a strong performing, low maintenance shrub that gives you beautiful color year round, you need to check out these Abelias. Not only are they going to give you gorgeous color, they're going to, those little deer friends of ours will not find them very attractive. Now, the next category of plants is barberries. Now, I have found that people either love barberries or they hate barberries. Yes, barberries have thorns on them, hence why they are deer-proof and added to this deer-proof line from Proven Winners. They do have thorns. However, this is not a shrub that you're going to go and just run your hands over. The one thing that I have found about the Proven Winners barberries is that, yes, they have thorns, but they are not especially pokey. And yes, I am creating my own word there. They are not extremely, really, the thorns don't pierce you, so you can easily, you know, touch it. If you need to trim it when you're walking by, it's not going to like reach out and grab you. And the thing I love about barberries is the color. You cannot get these gorgeous, vibrant, beautiful shades of these colors in your garden in any other way than barberries, at least what I have found. Also, they come in a range of sizes too and shapes. One of my favorite, well, you're gonna hear me say a lot about this. I always say like my favorite, but I have a lot of favorites. Sunjoy Citrus. Now, Sunjoy Citrus is going to give you that bright chartreuse pop of color. So when you are looking to have a really nice contrast between something that's like dark green, Sunjoy Citrus is going to be a great option for you. All barberries need full sun. So in order to get that beautiful, vibrant color on all your barberries, they need to be in full sun. So that means at least 6 hours. Barberries also are deciduous, so keep that in mind when you're planting your garden. Maybe you want to have your barberries next to an evergreen, dark evergreen, like say Sprinter boxwood, which happens to also be part of the deer-proof line. Then that would be a great option for you. But Sunjoy Citrus is going to be hardy in zones 4 to 8, and it's 2 to 3 feet tall and wide. With all your barberries, the maintenance on it, all you have to do is when you're coming out of winter and going into spring, give them a little haircut, right? Just tidy them up, make sure they have nice even habit on them as far as like a shape to them, and then they will flush out and be absolutely stunning. Another one of my absolute favorites, which is a huge seller here at the nursery, is Sunjoy Neo. Sunjoy Neo has this gorgeous electric pop of a combination of a red and an orange all together. And what is so great about Sunjoy Neo is its size. It is only going to be 2.5 feet tall and wide. Again, because it is a barberry and you know they don't flower, if you need to keep it even smaller than that, you can prune it more regularly and keep it nice and compact. It is a gorgeous shrub when, again, you pair it with other contrasting colors and it just explodes. You see it from a distance and it is beautiful with that gorgeous color. If you wanted that same shade, that same family of color, but you want a different shape, then Sunjoy Orange Pillar is going to be the one for you. We have orange pillar in the privacy berm, and whenever we do a video in that area, whenever customers or our people come to the nursery and see that, you see it from a distance and they are like, what is that plant? It is Sunjoy Orange Pillar, my friends. Pillar, given its name, is going to have a very columnar habit. So it is going to be more narrow and upright. It is going to be 3 to 4 tall and 1.5 to 3 feet wide. It is a gorgeous orange color, and it has even on the edge of the very edge of each leaf a nice kind of a chartreuse color. So it really stands out. Beautiful, beautiful. If you want to create like a hedge, if you wanted to just do an accent plant and have that upright columnar habit, Sunjoy Orange Pillar is for you. Now, if you want to, like you're like, okay, Jenny, it sounds great, but I'm just not one for those big, bold colors. I need to bring it down a notch. What do you have for me? Well, Sunjoy Sequins is going to be the one for you. Sunjoy Sequins has green cream and a little bit of pink variegation in it. So it's a little bit more elegant, not so big and bold and, you know, out there and flashy. So it's a little bit more refined. This one is going to be 3 to 4 tall, 4 to 5 wide. So it's going to be a nice big presence in the garden. Another great attribute of Sunjoy sequins is as we go into fall, right, Sunjoy sequins is going to take on more of a blush color, that really kind of that pinky hue. So you're going to have a nice transition into fall with that gorgeous shrub of Sunjoy sequins. Now, depending on where you live, you may say, well, Jenny, barberries, you know, what you're saying sounds all good and fine, but where I live, barberries are considered an invasive species and I can't grow them here. Well, let me tell you about Sunjoy Toto. Sunjoy Toto has been university tested all across the board and has been proven to be a sterile variety. So if you want and are attracted to the attributes of a barberry, but you just can't do it because you just want to be a responsible gardener and not put a plant that maybe, you know, sets seeds and is an invasive in your area, then Sunjoy Toto is going to be a great option for you, especially if you're in the milder zones like we are. So zones 6 to 8, this is going to be a super glossy semi-evergreen that has deep purple color and it's a nice tidy like semi-dwarf habit to it. Another great fun thing about this one is that it will actually produce little bright yellow flowers that then will turn into berries. Again, it has been tested by many different kind of universities and it is proven to be sterile. So Sunjoy Toto is going to be really nice because it's 1.5 to 2 feet tall and wide. So if you're looking for that really kind of that neat dark foliage that is sterile, check out Sunjoy Toto. I hinted to it before, but sprinter boxwood. So your boxwoods are going to be deer resistant, right? So they are part of that great deer proof line from Proven Winners. We have tons of experience with sprinter boxwood here at Creekside. We have it in multiple areas of our gardens and I just love this plant. One of the different things about sprinter boxwood is that it is a Japanese boxwood, not an English boxwood. Why does that matter? Well, one thing is that it is going to be more resistant to boxwood blight, which we all love. Also, the great thing about sprinter is it's so versatile. It can do full sun all the way to shade. It gives you that gorgeous evergreen foliage to it, and it is easily pruned to whatever shape that you want it to be in. Sprinter boxwood is going to be hardy in zones 5 to 9, and you can keep it anywhere between 2 to 4 feet tall. You can use it as a specimen plant, or you can use it as a hedge. So sprinter boxwood, great, nice, classic deer resistant shrub that will give you that beautiful evergreen foliage all year long. I'm a big fan of Pearl Glam. Pearl Glam is a beauty berry, and if you're not familiar with beauty berries, then you need to get acquainted with Pearl Glam. Beauty berries get their name because this time of the year, right, late summer going into fall, is where they really shine and where they get their name from. So back up just a little bit, right? So beauty berries have this really nice kind of the dark purpley foliage. They bloom on new growth, which is great because that way you can prune it. It will do really sweet white flowers throughout the spring and the summer, and they start at the base of the stem and then they work their way up as that stem grows. Those flowers then turn into berries. As the temperatures go down and the season progresses, those berries will take on a purple hue. In the fall, they are absolutely iridescent in color. And you will look at this shrub and it is just covered in these glowing purple berries. Hence its name, because it is a beautiful berry bush, right? A beauty berry. Pearl Glam is going to be hardy in zones 5 to 8. It is a full sun shrub, and you can keep it anywhere between 4 to 5 tall and 2 to 3 wide. It does bloom on new growth, so every winter, coming out of winter, going into spring, I will give it a nice haircut. It has that gorgeous, vigorous, really kind of upright habit in it. I personally have it more towards the back of the garden. That way I can let it get that 4 to 5 feet tall and then have shorter shrubs in front of it. So that Pearl Glam Beautyberry is a gorgeous plant. It would also be really good in the fall once it puts those berries on. Cut some of those stems and use them in arrangements, right? You don't have to worry about cutting off next year's blooms because it blooms on new growth. So check out this gorgeous shrub that was actually, it was bred by Dr. Tom Rainey here at NC State in North Carolina. It is a great one to add to your garden. Caryopteris. Caryopteris is one of those shrubs, if you're like, Jenny, I have full sun and it is hot and I just can't get anything to grow there. Well, I want you to try Caryopteris. There's two, there's Beyond Midnight and then Beyond Pink. These shrubs love to be neglected. The hotter it is, the happier they are. They're hardy in zones 5 to 9. And like Beyond Midnight, let's start with that one. Beyond Midnight is going to have the beautiful blue flowers on it. It has that dark glossy foliage, nice compact habit because it's going to be about 2.5 tall and wide. And it is one of those fantastic, just gorgeous shrubs that gives you beautiful flowers. And it is that high deer resistant, great pollinator attractor, Beyond Midnight. Now, if you want to go with something a little more funky, a little bit something more unique in its bloom structure, you cannot get more unique and more fun than Beyond Pink. Beyond Pink is one of those shrubs that for the majority of the season, you look at it and you're like, okay, it's a nice little green shrub. Fine. Well, starting in mid to late summer all the way through the fall, they have the coolest, soft baby doll pink blooms on it. That for me, they kind of remind me of like little mini spaceships all the way up the stem. They're very kind of rounded and have that neat habit to them, and they're just these little pink clumps that go all the way up the stems. This too is going to be 2.5 feet tall and wide, hardy in zones 7B to 9. So it's not quite as cold hardy as the Beyond Midnight. So if you live in those warmer zones, this is where you're going to want to use that Beyond Pink. As a little side note, if you're in a zone 7B or an 8, then I would highly recommend that you put it in an area that gets some winter protection. That means that you're going to have a windbreak somewhere close by to it. So when the cold winter winds come in, it has some protection. Because if you're going to lose a Caryopteris, especially Beyond Pink, it's going to be in the wintertime when it doesn't have any kind of protection from the cold winter winds and or it gets too wet. So you want to put this on higher ground, drains really well. Do not put this in a wet, soggy area. They love to have drier, really well draining soil. But my gosh, y'all, you cannot beat a shrub that has late season interest. Pollinators go all over the Caryopteris. You're going to love these plants. Your Caryopteris will give you that late summer color. Oh my gosh, heaven knows that we love to have that early spring color in our garden. What is going to give you that? Forsythias. That is right. Now, here in the South, I grew up calling them yellow bells. So yellow bells, forsythias, same plant, different names. Maybe you have a unique name for your forsythia depending on where you live in the country. I adore the Show Off series. Now, growing up, yes, we had yellow bells everywhere and you would see them. Still do. They are gorgeous. It's one of the first shrubs to bloom coming out of winter and going into spring, right? Those bright yellow flowers. However, the show-offs are absolutely just blow the traditional forsythias out of the water because of their flower power. The flowers are absolutely stacked upon one another from the very base of the plant all the way up to the tippy top of the stem. These plants make such a huge splash and impact in your garden that people driving by, your neighbors are gonna be like, what is that plant? How is this forsythia different than the ones that we have? Now, there's two that I really like. And so these are, depending on your size, right? Depending on your garden, it depends on maybe which variety you're gonna choose. Show Off. Show off is what the big daddy, right? This is going to be the largest of the Forsythias in the deer-proof line. It is going to be 5 to 6 feet tall and wide. And if you're further down in the south, I'm gonna say it might be even a little bit bigger. They are gonna be hardy in zones 5 to 8. As for me, as zone 8A, I have no problems with my Forsythias. And like I said, my show off is probably going to be taller than 6 feet tall. But they do bloom all the way from the crown of the plant all the way up to the tippy top. This is going to be a full sun to part shade. If you're in the warmer end of the zone like I am, because this is going to be hardy in zones 5 to 8, I'm in 8A, mine still gets that full sun. So I get probably 6 to 8 hours on my show off. However, it is going to be one of the first things that goes in the shade in the late afternoon, especially thinking about July and August. We don't want the shrubs to burn, so if you can get it in an area in your garden where around like 3 o'clock it starts to go in the shade, you're gonna have great success. Now, I know that a lot of people don't have room for a 6x6 plant. Well, then you are going to want to have show off Sugar Baby. Sugar Baby, as its name suggests, is going to be the nice little tiny petite version of show off. You still get your massive flower power all the way on that stem, but it is going to max out at 2.5 feet tall and wide. All the same characteristics as your show off, just in a little petite miniature version of it. As a side note, Forsythias do bloom on old growth, so if you need to prune it, which I always do prune my show off because it's such a happy plant and gets nice and vigorous, then you're going to want to do that in the spring after it finishes blooming. This is not a shrub that you're going to prune in the fall. If you do, then you're going to be losing some of your flowers. Prune your Forsythias right after they bloom. Mid-spring, you will be fine because they will have lots of time to put on more growth in that growing season to give you flower power for the next season. If you are looking for a nice evergreen that will take up a lot of real estate in your garden, especially wide, if you have a bank, you have a slope that you need to cover, then I want you to check out Montana moss. Montana moss is one that's relatively new to me. I actually bought 3 little Montana mosses that I am growing out currently that I will add to my garden because I was attracted to Montana moss because it is a juniper. It is evergreen, and even though it is a juniper, it has soft foliage to it. So this is not going to be one that you find incredibly aggressive and pokey and hurt when you touch it. It is very soft to the touch, and it takes up a lot of real estate. So when I say it takes up a lot of real estate, it will get 2 to 4 feet tall and 3 to 5 feet wide. So this is going to give you a big bang for your buck. It is a blue hue to it, which is often sometimes hard to put into the garden, right? We want to have color variation within our garden, and having a blue compact evergreen is fantastic. Not only is it deer resistant, but it is also drought tolerant, and it is about the easiest thing to grow. So if you're looking for a nice blue evergreen shrub that gets nice and wide, takes up real estate, check out Montana moss. And what I love about it too is its versatility. Hardy in zones 4 to 9. So I here in the south, zone 8A in North Carolina, can grow it with no problem. And my friends in upper Michigan can grow it as well. So extremely adaptable with Montana moss. If you're looking for a nice evergreen shrub that gives you some fun color variation, but you need a little bit more shade, maybe you have a little shady area that stays damp, well, let me introduce you to Paisley Pup. Paisley Pup is going to be one of the newer additions to the Proven Winners Color Choice shrub line. It was introduced, I believe, this year, and Paisley Pup is going to be hardy in zones 5 to 8, and it is going to be 3 to 4 feet tall, 4 to 5 feet wide. So again, it's going to take up a good amount of real estate in your garden, which we find people are looking for, right? Maybe you're on a budget, so you want the most bang for your buck. Well, Paisley Pup is going to be a great one for you. I personally cannot wait to add this to the garden because of its color variation. So Paisley Pup is going to be a kaleidoscope of continually changing colors. It is going to go with shades of pink, cream, green, white, bronze, yellow. It does a fragrant white bell-shaped flowers in from like April to June, and it is going to be absolutely stunning in that kind of that partial shade a little moist, right? So this would not be one that's in that highly dry area like your Caryopteris, right? So Paisley Pup is going to be that great option for that part shade, slightly damp, well-draining soil, and that's going to give you gorgeous color year-round because it is an evergreen shrub. A fun new addition that I personally added to my garden this year was sweet and low Sarcococca. Now this is a great evergreen shrub that will be perfect for your full sun to your part shade garden. I personally have it up at the chicken coop, so it gets great morning sun, probably in that 5 hours of sun, and then it goes into shade. Sarcococca is going to be a great fast-growing evergreen shrub, and sweet and low is really neat because it is going to be a little bit more petite. It is only going to be about 2.5 feet tall, 2 to 3 feet wide. That gives you beautiful evergreen color, and that going to be that full sun part shade area in your garden. It is blooms in late winter, early spring with these little nice little cream and burgundy flowers on it. It is perfect, like I said, for those shady areas. Now, if you're in zones, because it's hardy in zones 5 to 9, if you're in the more cold hardy areas, if you're in zones 5, 6, then I would say you could probably go with more sun. If you're in zones 7, 8, 9, then you're going to want to put it in a little bit more shade. Sweet and low will naturally, very easily, very restrained, be spread out from that original plant that you plant. Now, it is not invasive. It just happens to, spread its wings a little bit and enjoy the surrounding area. But I love this because it has such a great habit to it, kind of like an arching habit. Nice and petite, so you can put it in the front of that garden. And with me being in a warmer zone, I have it in more in the shade, and having that great color and interest year-round, being an evergreen in my shade garden, is a great, huge plus. If you were looking for a shrub to give you really fun late summer, fall interest, then you really want to check out Proudberry. Proudberry is a coral berry that is going to give us really sweet baby doll pink berries in the late summer into fall. It is the coolest plant. It is hardy in zones 3 to 7. Now, as a zone 8, I always thought, I can't grow this plant. I'm going to be too hot. I'm going to be too humid for it. Well, I put it in the garden, and lo and behold, y'all, she is doing great. So the trick, if you're in a warmer zone and if you want to kind of push it, you want to test it to see how it does, you're going to want to make sure that it is in an area that's considered full sun. So that means that 6 hours, right? Because your Proudberry needs to be in a full sun area to give you those beautiful berries. However, just like my Forsythia, it is in an area that gets in the shade in the afternoon. So it does not get the hot, intense afternoon sun. I personally have it on irrigation, and I have seen rapid growth in this plant. So if you are looking for that Proudberry to give you that gorgeous color, a few little maintenance tips on it. In coming out of winter, going into spring, you want to give it a nice hard prune. Cut it back till it's about like a foot tall, because it is going to produce the flowers, which then turn into the berries, on new growth. So we want to prune this nice and hard coming out of winter and going into spring, and it is going to give you gorgeous rapid growth. It is a deciduous shrub, but it has these really sweet, soft, little tender, kind of a bluish green hue to it of the leaves. And then this time of the year for me, it starts to put on those berries, and I can see them developing, and I cannot wait until they start to turn that beautiful pink color. Really fun fall interest, great, easy, full sun shrub that's extremely cold hardy. So if you're looking for that, check out the Proudberry coralberry. When I'm planting my gardens, I really am looking for those shrubs that can give me multiple seasons of interest, right? So we want to get, again, the most bang for our buck. Well, let me introduce you to Spice Baby. Spice Baby is a viburnum, right? It is that compact viburnum that is going to give you beautiful, fragrant white flowers in the springtime. It's going to be hardy in zones 4 to 8, full sun to part sun, 3.5 feet tall and wide. So a very nice, manageable size that can fit into a wider range of spaces in your garden. It is not going to get too massive. That's why it's called Spice Baby, because she's nice and petite. So Spice Baby is going to give you those fragrant spring blooms, beautiful habit to it, and it is also going to give you great fall interest. These viburnums, yes, they bloom in the spring and they're gorgeous. Sometimes here in the South, people will call them snowball bushes. So you've got that great white flower that has a great fragrance to it. During the summer, you're gonna have a nice green habit to it, and then in the fall, it will turn gorgeous fall hues, and it will give you lots of interest in your garden. So, nice petite, manageable size on it that gives you spring flowers. It gives you structure during the summer, and then in the fall, those gorgeous colors. A new one that Proven Winners has introduced, they introduced this year, is a vitex, Rock Steady. Now, Rock Steady has absolutely blown my socks off. I planted it as a quart-sized container, and y'all, it is absolutely exploding in growth. It has been covered in flowers for weeks. So your Rock Steady is going to be different than your other vitexes because it's going to have a much longer bloom season on it. If you're not familiar with vitexes, these are like small, large shrub, small tree. And when you may first look at it, you're like, that is a giant butterfly bush, because it has that that is reminiscent of those butterfly blooms. However, it's not a butterfly bush. It is not a buddleia. It is that vitex. So Rock Steady has a really nice foliage to it, where it's kind of that blue, gray, green foliage. And then in your late summer, mid to late summer is when it starts to bloom. Nice lavender flowers on it that are huge attractors for your pollinators. Your butterflies are going to go crazy over Rock Steady. It is going to be hardy in zones 5B to 9, and it will so depending on your zone, it can be anywhere between 4 feet to 12 feet tall. If you're in that zone 5B, you're going to be more on the small side. If you're going to be in a zone 8 and 9, that's why I said it turns into a small tree, which at 12 feet, is nothing to shake your head over. So 4 to 12 tall and 4 to 5 wide. Here in the South, you will see them have this shape. People will prune them so that they have more of the habit of like a petite crepe myrtle. So that that multi-trunk stem to it. Gorgeous foliage on it, y'all. And then those flowers. Love this plant, and it is a fast grower. So you're going to see one blooms the absolute first year, and then it is going to have a nice fast habit on it, and so it is quickly going to get into the size that you want at your garden. So if you're looking for a late summer interest that attracts your pollinators and that blooms for a long time, check out Rock Steady Vitex. I hope this has been helpful for you, that you, if you were one of those poor folks that deal with high deer pressure, first off, kudos to you. The patience and the endurance that you have to continue to garden with those that have that high deer pressure that can take your garden out seemingly overnight, my hat's off to you. And so hopefully this will give you some more weapons in your toolbox to battle those deer in your garden, to give you 4 seasons of interest, right? Because as gardeners, that is what we want. We want 4 seasons of interest in our gardens that the critters will leave alone, so that we can have a gorgeous display throughout the year that you can enjoy. As always, we hope you have found this fun, informative, and inspirational. Y'all have an amazing day, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends.